Now we are going to deploy our Strapi API and our Next.js application to DigitalOcean and put it online. So to do that, we are of course going to be using DigitalOcean and Open Lightspeed administration panel and the server, which is going to help us to put all of this together and so that we don't have to do absolutely everything by hand. Also, if you want $300 in your DigitalOcean credit for 60 days, please use the referral link currently on the screen. Also, the link is in the description below. You will get $100 for 60 days, so you can tinker around with DigitalOcean, and for every $25 you spend, I will get $25 also on DigitalOcean credit. So everybody wins. Now that you have signed up to DigitalOcean with my referral code, you got your $100 and you are able to tinker around with stuff on DigitalOcean. Like for example, deploying your Strapi and Next.js application. So we are just going to go to create, click droplet, and droplet is just a place where you are going to deploy your apps, or a server in normal terms. So we are not going to choose any of these images, but we are going to go to marketplace and search for Lightspeed. As you can see, you have 4 options. We are going to choose Node.js one, of course. For the plan, we are going to choose standard. Here we are going to go with the cheapest option, of course. So it's going to be 1 gig of RAM, 1 CPU, 25 gigs of SSD, and 1 terabyte of transfer. You now need to choose the region. Of course, choose the region nearest to you. So I'm going to choose a Frankfurt one. And here for the authentication, you can choose between password and SSH keys. If you already don't have SSH keys, I urge you to add them because it's much easier to work with SSH keys than with passwords. So choose whatever you like, and I think that's about it. Let's just name our project Next Strapi. Okay, and I think that's about it. Create our droplet. Now that our droplet has been created, let's SSH into it. So I'm going to copy this IP, open up my terminal, and you just do SSH root and then the IP. Okay, so once you log in here, because of this image, you have few things you need to take care of. First of all, if you have a domain, you can add your domain right here. We are not going to be using this right now, but you can add it. So for now, I'm just going to Control-C out of this, and it's going to ask you this every time you SSH into your server until you set up your domain. So it's a nice thing that Open Lightspeed does for you. Also, you have an access to an administration panel, and to find out the password of that administration panel, you can use this command right here. So cat.lightspeed password. Let's just try it. So this is the password for my administration panel. So if I go to my browser, copy my IP again and paste this in, I get hello world from Open Lightspeed Node.js. Great, so our site works. So if we wanna access our administration, our Open Lightspeed administration, you would go to port 7080. However, this currently doesn't work because Open Lightspeed is going to set up some security for you also, some basic security. So it's going to close down some ports. Actually, it's going to close down all of the ports except for port 80 and I think port 433, which is used for SSL. So we need to enable this port to be able to access our administration. And to do that, you just go to your terminal and you do UFW allow and then the number of the port. And in our case, that port is going to be 7080. Okay. And while we are here, let's just do the same thing for the port 3000 because our Next.js app is running on that port, and also for the port 1337 because our Strapi application is running on that port. Okay, so we allowed some ports enable them. Now let's go to our, actually let me just do something here. So we will need this password again. I'm going to copy it. Now let's go to our browser. And as you can see, this now works, except we don't have a certificate, so it says it's not secure. You click on advanced and proceed to this destination. And now we are greeted with this login screen for Open Lightspeed administration. You just do admin and the password that we just copied. And now you're here. Okay, so here we can set up our virtual hosts for our application and also listeners for our application, which are the two things that we are going to be doing in Open Lightspeed administration. Now we are going to create our virtual hosts. So you go right here. As you can see, you already have one virtual host called example. So we are going to create another one. We are going to call this one Strapi, and the root is going to be Strapi with a slash, and the config file is going to be conf vhosts strapi vhconf.conf. Okay, so this is our config file. If you try to save this, it's going to say that we don't have it and that it doesn't exist. So we just click to create. It is created successfully, and also just say yes to all of these options right here. Save this. Great. Now let's create another host, another virtual host actually, by going here again, and this one is going to be called Next app. Config file is going to be also conf vhosts, but instead of Strapi, of course, we are doing Next app and vhconf.conf. Yes, and try to save it. It doesn't exist. Click to create. Great, save this. Now all we need to do is gracefully restart our server, and to do that you just click on this button right here. Click go. Okay, so now our virtual hosts are kind of set up, not exactly. We need to add, as you could see right here, so come on. It sometimes does this, I don't know, the first time you create new virtual host. So now you have this virtual host config file, and we are going to fill it in by using SFTP, logging into our server, and then just copying two files that are already prepared. They are also going to be available for you on GitHub in the DigitalOcean directory. So I will of course leave a link down below. So you can use anything you like for this step. I'm using Forklift, but you can use FileZilla or any other SFTP and FTP file manager that you like. To set this up, I'm just giving it a name of Next Strapi. The protocol is going to be SFTP. The server is my IP address and the username is just root. But of course, if you opted out to use a password instead of SSH keys, you would have to add a password here. I currently don't have to do that. I'm just going to click save, and then I'm going to log in to my server. So I'm currently in my root directory. Now everything we need is inside of USR, USR local, lsws directory. So this is the Lightspeed's directory from which it controls everything. So if we click here, you can see that we have this example right here. That's the virtual host that was already present when we first entered our Open Lightspeed administration. So let's just like we have this example right here, let's just create a Strapi directory and also Next app directory. Okay, so now we have Next app, we have Strapi. First thing we need to do, we need to set up our vhosts config file. And those files are in conf, and then vhosts, and then Next app Strapi. Okay, so in the project files, so on GitHub, if you download it, you will have this DigitalOcean directory, and in it you have a few files. So first of all, let's go to vhosts and Next app Strapi. As you can see, we have Next app and we have Strapi. So if I go to Next app, I'm just going to go right here and rewrite this file, replace it. Okay, and we do the same thing for Strapi. Just copy over this file. Now these vhconf.conf files are the same files that you get in this example folder, except if we take a look at them, as you can see, they have these references to the example directories. We just remove all those references and replace them with either Strapi or Next.js. Great. So those are our vhconf files. So now let's set up folder structure for directories in which we are actually going to host our files, to which we are going to deploy our files. So let's first do it for Next.js. If we go to Next.js, as you can see, this is an empty folder. So you just go to folder structure right here and copy everything from it to Next.js. And of course, as you can imagine, this is the same folder structure that you get in your example directory. And let's do the same thing for Strapi. Okay, so let's go to our Strapi directory. We are going to do this one first. If we go to HTML, then you go to Node, you get this app.js file. If we take a look at it, it just says hello world from OpenLightspeed Node.js. So we want to change this to say hello world from Strapi. Save it. If you go to your IP, you are currently getting this message, hello world from OpenLightspeed Node.js. And this is because if we go to our administration, you go to listeners, you go to this default listener, which is listening on port 80, which is default HTTP port. So you just do default, and as you can see, it is using this example virtual host. So we want to change that to Strapi. Click edit, just choose Strapi right here, save it. And then, of course, gracefully restart the server, click it, go. Okay, so now we are using our Strapi virtual host. If I go here, refresh this page, as you can see, now we are getting hello world from Strapi. Great, so this works. Now, what we need to do is we need to transfer all of our Strapi files to that node folder and then set up Strapi and make it work somehow. So on the left side of my file manager, I'm currently in my Strapi folder. And on the right side, I'm also in my Strapi folder, but on my server. So Strapi HTML node. Great. So we need to copy all of our Strapi files here. Actually, not all of them. You don't want to copy all of them. So we are going to copy API. We are going to skip build. Also, you don't want to copy this cache idea TMP. So you do conf, extensions, public, then let's see right here. So you need package lock and package JSON. And that's about it. Also favicon. That's it. So you copy only these files because we are going to install Strapi on our server. So install all of its dependencies and build its administration panel. So just click copy and wait for it to finish. So now that we copied everything, let's go to our terminal. And now we want to go to that Strapi folder. And to do that, you do cd, so usr, local, lsws, Strapi, HTML, and node. Great, so this is the directory. If you do ls, as you can see, these are all the files that we currently copied. So first of all, we need to install all of the dependencies. You do that by just doing npm install. Once this is done, once all the dependencies have been installed, we need to build our administration area for Strapi. And to do that, you would just do node env equals production, because we want to build it for production, npm run build. Once this is done, you can maybe use npm run start to actually run Strapi application. And now, as you can see, it tells us that you have to go to localhost 133.7 admin to create your administration account. If we go to our browser, you just get this screwed up Strapi page. I don't know why this is happening. I think it's reading something from the public folder and then displaying it. So you need to go to the port 1337 admin. Great, so this works, except it actually doesn't work, because if I exit out of my terminal session, or if I quit out of this by doing Ctrl+C, so I just terminate this application. Now if I go to my browser and refresh this page, of course we are not going to get anything. So how do we handle this situation? Well, we want to create start.js file, which is going to start up every time our server restarts. So that is one more thing that Lightspeed is doing for you. So if something happens and your server restarts, it's going to look for that file and automatically start up your application. So if we go to Forklift or FileZilla or whatever you're using, in the DigitalOcean folder you have start files. So I'm going to go to start files, Strapi, and you have this start.js. And as you will see, this is a very simple file, which is just requiring Strapi and then running Strapi start. That's it, nothing else. So we are just going to copy that to the root of our application. So start.js is here right now. And now we are going to go to our administration. You go to virtual hosts, then you go to Strapi, then you go to context, and then you go to here or click edit. And as you can see, you have something called startup file. So we are just going to define our startup file to be start.js. Okay, save this, gracefully restart our server. So now if we go to our application or our IP, if I refresh it, you get this Strapi page again. But if I go to admin, you get to Strapi admin. And we are not running anything inside of our terminal. As you can see, it is completely empty. Okay, so this works, but it doesn't work the way that we want it to work, because as you can see, we are accessing it through admin auth register and we are not defining the port. We don't want to do that because we want our Next.js application to be just on the IP and our API on port 1337. So to correct that situation, we are going to go to listeners. Then you go to this default listener, and you change this port from 80 to 1337. Save it. Gracefully restart. Okay, now if I refresh this page, as you can see, now this site can be reached. But if we go to port 1337, now it works. Okay, so here you would just add your admin username, password, and your email address. And you click ready to start. So now our Strapi is working. However, you don't have any data from your local installation of Strapi, and some things do not work. So for example, if you go to this page and you go to movies, you get forbidden. Okay, so first of all, let's just create a movie. So we add a new movie, call it a movie. You set release date, for example, and you set a slug, a movie. Great, save this. Now we have our one movie here, but again, as I said, this still doesn't work. And it doesn't work because you don't have public permissions to access this endpoint. So we are just going to go to roles and permissions. You go to public, and for every content type that you have, you just add count, find, and find one. Okay, and then you save this. And now if we check out the movies endpoint, as you can see, now it works. Great, so our API is currently working. What we need to do next is we need to make our Next.js application also work. So just like we did with Strapi, we need to transfer our files. So I'm going to go here, go a few steps back, and find my next app inside of USR local LSWS folder. And then you go to HTML, you go to Node. Currently we have only app.js here. So we want to copy components, contexts, pages, public theme, You don't need JS config, you need next SEO config, next config JS, package lock, and package JSON files. And that's about it. Do not copy the next file. Now in our terminal, we are also going to go a few steps back. So to be USR local LSWS and use CD into next step, and then HTML, and then Node. Okay, so we are here right now. Now, of course, we need to install our dependencies, so you just do npm install. Now, once this is finished, you can create your env file, because in our env file, we are going to have the URL to our API, which is, of course, going to be different for our production setup and for our local development setup. So you just do nano.env, and in it, you would do API URL is going to be equal to, and it's going to be equal to this right here. So our IP address with 1337. Copy this and just paste it in here. So this is going to be our API URL. You do Control X to exit out, and it's probably going to ask you if you want to save it. I already saved this one. So we have our env file set up. Next thing we need to do, we need to build our Next.js app. And to do that, you just do npm run build. And of course, just like with our Strapi app, we need to have some sort of a startup file. I copied this file from Next.js documentation, so we are creating a custom server inside of our start.js file, because you can't run it easily like you can Strapi. But it's nothing too complicated. We are not going to go into it. You can just copy that code either from documentation or from DigitalOcean folder in GitHub repository. So here I'm going to create start.js file. And in it, I'm just going to copy everything from that file that I have in DigitalOcean. So I'm not going to copy it like I did for Strapi. So go to DigitalOcean, start files, next step. And if you take a look at this, you have this code right here. So we are just creating a custom server, which is going to run once we set up our startup file. Okay, copy this. And then I'm just going to paste it inside of my start.js file on my server. Do Control X, say yes, enter, and that's about it. So now we have our start.js file. And in fact, I didn't show you this for Strapi, but if you just do node start.js, you should be able to run your application like this. So this is exactly what startup file in Open Lightspeed does. So I'm going to quit out of this because of course we don't want this to run on our server. And next thing we need to do, we need to go to our administration, to Lightspeed console of course, and go to virtual hosts. Next step, you go to context and we want to edit this app server context. And here for the startup file, just like for Strapi, we define start.js. Save this and refresh the page. Okay, so now if we go to our IP, okay, if we go to 1337, this works. We are also getting this even if we go just to our IP without the port, because it's still pointing to Strapi. So what we need to do, we need to create another listener. So we are going to go to listeners and create a new listener, which we are going to be calling next step. So it's going to be called next step. The port in this case is going to be 80, not 1337 or 3000. And this is not going to be a secure virtual host. So we are saying no because we don't have a certificate. And then we save this, of course, gracefully restart. And now we have next step, default. So default is going to port 1337, while next step is going to port 80. And of course, I forgot something. This won't work because we didn't map our virtual host right here. So let's do that. You do next step. for virtual host, and for the domain you just do our IP address without HTTPS. So save this and again gracefully restart. Okay, so now let's try to see if this works. So we go right here and try to refresh this page. Okay, sometimes this doesn't work immediately, so try to exit out of this and rebuild your Next.js app again. So we are going to go right here and do npm run build. Okay, so let's try it now. And as you can see, our application now works. However, we do not have navigation right here because we don't have any navigations defined in our Strapi. We have a movie, so if we go to it, we get to a movie. If we add another movie to our administration, Strapi administration, of course. So you need to log in again. So you add another movie, not now, sorry. Set up release date. Don't forget to set up the slug, because if you don't, then when you click on that movie, you're going to get an error. So the slug is going to be another movie. Save it. Okay. And now if we go to our app, as you can see, we are immediately getting another movie. If we click on it, we get a movie and so on. Okay, so now this works and this is great. I must tell you the preparation for this video was very hard. So I spent at least 2 days figuring all of this stuff out. So I'm just going to leave the links to the documentation that kind of helped me while doing this. So you can maybe read through it and maybe do some things differently if you don't like how this is set up. Also, don't forget to use my referral DigitalOcean link, so you would get $100 for free for the next 60 days. And whenever you spend $25, I get 25 in DigitalOcean credit, and everybody wins. So anyway guys, this has been it for this video. Remember, everything we did here will be available for you on GitHub. The link will be in the description below. And as always, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next one.